The supposed comet is catching the attention of some of the nation's most renowned scientists, as one Harvard professor is raising the theory this may actually be a piece of alien technology. According
Will be moving relative to Earth at nearly 100 kilometers per second when it's closest to the Sun, simply because it moves in the opposite direction to the motion of the Earth. There is no way for us to send a rocket that will intercept with it.
In the infinite silence of space, where stars burn and die without ever being noticed by human eyes, there comes every so often a visitor. It does not announce itself. It does not seek permission. It simply drifts in, carried by trajectories written long before humanity existed. But sometimes, these cosmic wanderers strike such accord of mystery and terror that we can help but feel they are here for us. In late 2017, astronomers first experienced that chilling feeling when a strange, cigar-shaped body slingshot head past the sun. They called it Oumuamua, Hawaiian for scout or messenger from afar. It was the first interstellar object ever confirmed by human instruments. Its path, its shape, its inexplicable acceleration, all of it refused to sit comfortably within the boundaries of known science. Too many. It was the first whisper that we are not alone. But as quickly as it appeared, Oumuamua vanished into the void, leaving only questions, arguments, and an ache of unresolved fear. Now we stand once again at the threshold of that fear. Another visitor has arrived. It is officially named 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected. Yet unlike Oumuamua, this new arrival is shrouded in even deep uncertainty. It is not merely a rack from another star system. Some scientists whisper it may be more than natural, more than random. Some dare to suggest it could be a vanguard of intelligence far older and far more advanced than we can imagine. Discovered by the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, ATLAS in Hawaii, 3I Atlas appeared at first as another icy body, perhaps a comet expelled from a distant system. But the deeper astronomers looked, the less sense it made. Its brightness shifted erratically. Its orbit seemed calculated rather than accidental. Its composition defied expectations. In private conversations and hushed interviews, researchers began to utter words once forbidden in academic circles. Extraterrestrial artifact probe. The human mind is quick to connect dots, especially when those dots sketch the outline of something terrifying. If Oumuamua was the first scout, was 3I Atlas the second wave? If the universe is indeed alive with civilizations, then why would Unthaifi send machines before fleets, probes before colonies? After all, that is exactly what we humans have done with Voyager, Pioneer, and New Horizons, our fragile metal emissaries sailing beyond the planets, carrying plaques and golden records announcing our existence. Would it be arrogant to assume other beings would do differently? And so the whispers grow louder. What if 3I Atlas is not a comet at all, but an observation platform, disguised as debris, silently cataloging our solar system? What if it has already transmitted everything it has seen, our satellites, our radio chatter, our planet to its creator's light, years away? What if we are at this very moment the subjects of a distant civilization's telescope, a curiosity pinned like an insect to a board? These questions cut deeper because they resonate with something primal in us. For thousands of years, human myths have told of omens in the sky, fiery comets foretelling war, strange lights heralding disaster. Entire empires once trembled at the sight of such visitors. Today, our instruments may be sharper, but our fears remain the same. What? The skies say NDSU something unknown. We wonder not only what it is, but what it means. Sun, Atlas, then is more than an astronomical anomaly. It is a near hell to our species. It reflects our longing for connection, our terror of invasion, and our suspicion that we are not as special as we imagine. It reminds us that while we gaze outward with telescopes, someone or something might already be gazing back. And this time, unlike with Oumuamua, we are watching more carefully. The James Webb Space Telescope scans the heavens with eyes sharper than any before it. SETI arrays listen with renewed urgency. Governments, though silent in public, have no doubt placed this object under a microscope of intelligence and defense. The stakes are higher now, for if this is not random, then it is deliberate. And if it is deliberate, then humanity has already entered its first contact, not with words, not with handshakes, but with silent machines, drifting between the stars. The arrival of 3I Atlas is not just another line in the catalog of comets. It is the beginning of a new chapter in the oldest human story. The fear that we are not alone, and the equal fear that we are. The story of 3I Atlas begins, not with fireworks or fanfare, but with a flicker of light in the Hawaiian night. It was December 2019, when the asteroid terrestrial impact last alert. System known simply as ATLA is registered. Something unusual. The system itself was never designed for glamour. It was built for vigilance. A sentinel against the countless rocks that could one day end life on Earth as sure lie as one did for the dinosaurs, with 4 telescopes positioned strategically across the Hawaii, Ian Islands and beyond. Atlas scans the sky every night, sweeping for faint objects whose paths might intersect with our planet. Most of the time, it finds the expected. Small asteroids, icy comets, fragments of debris. But on this particular night, its sensitive detectors picked up something different. Atom object, moving at ass speed. That made even seasoned astronomers frown, appeared on its screens. The orbit calculated from its initial path was not bound to our sun. It was moving too fast. It was not a local traveler from the asteroid belt. It was not from the Oort cloud. It was not ours. It was interstellar. The designation came quickly. 3I 2020 F3 Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object ever found by humanity. 3, I marked it as part of a Tony exclusive club after Amumu in 2017 and Comet Borisov in 2019. This was only the third known visitor from another star system, but to those who watched it close line, it soon became clear that 3I Atlas would be the most enigmatic of them all. At first glance, astronomers thought 3I Atlas might simply be another interstellar comet like Borisov, icy, faint, and relatively unremarkable, aside from the fact that it hailed from beyond our solar system. But the data refused to fit that easy label. The object's brightness fluctuated wildly, as if it were tumbling irregularly, or perhaps reflecting sunlight from flat surfaces. That possibility alone stirred controversy. Natural bodies, especially comets, tend to shine in predictable ways, but when brightness rises and falls, sharp lie. It suggests geometry, angles, something with structure. Even stranger was its trajectory. The path of 3I Atlas C Med, almost too precise, as if it had been carefully plotted to sweep past Earth's neighborhood before vanishing into the depths of interstellar space again. To those already inclined to suspicion, it looked less like a random rock and more like a reconnaissance probe. For scientists still haunted by the mysteries of Oumuamua, the discovery of 3I ATLAs reopened every wound. Oumuamua had been elongated like a needle, reflecting sunlight in ways that no known comet or asteroid ever had. It had accelerated, slightly without explanation, as though propelled by some invisible hand. The Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb famously suggested it could be an alien probe, perhaps a solar sail drifting between stars. Now here was 3I Atlas, and it carried echoes of that same strangeness. The timing was almost mocking. Just 2 years after Oumuamua vanished, another enigmatic body arrived. To conspiracy theorists, it was confirmation of a pattern. First the scout, then the follow-up. To mainstream astronomers, it was both exciting and deeply unsettling. Lightning is not supposed to strike twice in the same place, but in this case, it had crossed the vastness of the cosmos. Was this coincidence, or was it deliberate? Officially, observatories described 3I ATLAS as likely a comet of interstellar origin. NASA and ESA announcements struck a cautious tone. They highlighted the rarity of such discoveries, celebrated the power of modern sky surveys, and reassured the public that the object posed no threat. But outside the official channels, questions simmered. If it was truly just a, why was its activity so inconsistent? Why did its gas emissions appear weaker than expected? And why, once again, was its orbit so unusual? As journalists scrambled for headlines, the internet filled with speculation, YouTube videos, late-night radio shows, and forums lit up with theories. Some claimed 3I ATLAS was an alien arc, carrying spore E's or microorganisms across star systems. Others declared it was a beacon programmed to alert its makers that intelligent life had been found in this sector of the galaxy, and a more chilling minority suggested it was quietly mapping Earth and its defenses before vanishing back into the dark. It is difficult to know how governments truly viewed 3I ATLAS. Official press releases may dismiss it as scientific curiosity, but history shows us that anything from beyond Earth is never treated lightly. When Oumuamua appeared, both the Pentagon and intelligence agencies quietly requested analysis. Defense strategists know that even the faintest possibility of an artificial probe demands consideration. It would be naive to assume 3I ATLAS escaped that same scrutiny. Behind closed doors, one can imagine classified meetings where generals and scientists debated, if this is not a comet, then what is it? Military radar tracked its path. Data from the James Webb Space Telescope was requested. And perhaps, though we may never know, directed radio signals were sent toward it, probing for a reply. The silence that followed tells its own story. Silence can mean absence, but it can also mean discretion. Even if 3I Atlas is nothing more than a wandering fragment of ice and rock, its significance to humanity is profound. It forces us to confront questions we cannot easily escape. Why do these interstellar objects keep arriving so soon after one another? Why do their properties so often defy our expectations? And most unsettling of all, what if they are not random? Throughout history, comets were seen as omens, harbingers of change, symbols of both doom and destiny. To the ancients, they meant kings would fall, empires would crumble, wars would begin today. We may cloak our fear in the language of science, but the feeling is the same. Something foreign has entered our skies, something not bound to our sun, not part of our world, and whether natural or artificial, it reminds us of our fragility. 3I Atlas is not merely it is a messenger, whether it carries words or silence. It tells us that our solar system is not an island, that the cosmos is restless, and that other stories, perhaps other civilizations, exist beyond the edges of our maps. The discovery of 3I Atlas was just the beginning. What followed were weeks of fevered observation, desperate calculations, and growing unease. The object was faint, and soon it would vanish beyond the reach of even our most powerful telescopes. Time was running out. Humanity had been given a brief window to study this interstellar visitor, and perhaps to learn whether we were staring not at our own, but at a machine. What we saw next would only deepen the mystery. When 3I Atlas was first catalogued, many dismissed it as a mere comet, a dirty snowball flung from a distant star system. But within weeks of its discovery, cracks began to form in that simple narrative. Astronomers live and breathe anomalies, yet even they grew uneasy at the data. The object shimmered strangely. Its trajectory was precise, almost elegant. Its composition refused to match expectations. What should have been a cosmic pebble looked, at times, more like a device. And so inevitably, whispers grew louder. What if this was not nature's work? Telescopes trained on 3I Atlas reported brightness curves that defied explanation. Natural comets bright and unpredictable. ARCS sunlight hits their icy surfaces. Heat triggers outgassing. Jets of vapor spray into space, and the glow intensifies smoothly. 3I Atlas, however, seemed to flicker, not randomly, but in intervals. At times, its light doubled, as though vast, flat surfaces were reflecting the sun. In bursts, then the glow would vanish, only to surge again moments later. Some astronomers likened it to a tumbling sheet of metal, like the glint of a solar panel, catching sunlight as it rotated in space. Others suggested a solar sail, the kind of technology human engineers only dream of building at interstellar scale. A sail, ultra-thin and vast, could ride on photons, drifting from star to star like Azalant emissary. Could 3I Atlas be just that? A relic of another civilization? Its engineering, its reflective panels still intact after millions of years drifting in the void. If 3I Atlas were a comet, astronomers expected a spectacular display as it neared the sun. Sublimating ice should have burst forth, forming the classic glowing tail, but no such thing occurred. The outgassing was weak, sporadic, and inconsistent. NASA's official description admitted this strangeness, but softened it with caveats. Perhaps the object S. Isis had long since burned away, or perhaps its composition differed from typical comets. Still, the lack of a clear, visible tail only fueled suspicion. Conspiracy forums seized on the imagery, a comet with no tail, moving with eerie precision. To them, this was not an intro traveler, it was a comet, hiding behind the convenient label of interstellar comet. Another unsettling clue lay in its orbit. Most interstellar objects barrel into our system on chaotic paths, slingshotting around the sun before being hurled back into interstellar night. Yet 3I Atlas traced a trajectory that felt deliberate. Its angle of entry was shallow. Its arc carried it neatly past Earth's orbit, close enough to study, but far enough to avoid collision. To astrophysicists, it was a statistical oddity. To skeptics, it was intention. The late physicist John Wheeler once remarked, "Coincidence is what you have left over when you apply a broad theory." For those watching 3I Atlas, coincidence felt like a poor excuse. Comparisons with Oumuamua were inevitable. The earlier interstellar visitor had starbeat. Scientists with its elongated shape and unexplained acceleration, seemingly propelled without jets or engines. The Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb had dared to suggest it was artificial. And though mocked, his words lingered. Now 3I Atlas exhibited its own oddities. Inconsistent brightness, strange trajectory, weak out. The parallels were striking. Two interstellar visitors, arriving within just a few years of each other, both carrying signs that challenged natural explanation. Was this mere chance, or were we witnessing the footsteps of something greater? A mission, a plan. Among the most Tongtolesi theories was the idea that 3IATLAS might be a solar sail. Human engineers at NASA and JAXA had already experimented with small-scale sails, such as Icarus and Light Sail 2. These craft demonstrated that ultra-thin reflective sheets could indeed harness sunlight as propulsion. But 3I Atlas, if it were a sail, dwarfed anything humans had attempted. Its brightness curve suggested dimensions spanning hundreds of meters, perhaps even kilometers. The notion staggered the imagination. If such sails were real, they would be the perfect tools for interstellar reconnaissance. Lightweight, durable, and capable of drifting between stars for millions of years. A civilization older than ours, by even a few centuries, could deploy thousands of them, seeding the galaxy with probes. To some 3I Atlas was not a random rock. It was a message in plain sight, its reflective skin flashing like a cosmic symbol. Others suggested a different purpose. Perhaps 3IATLAS was not a vehicle, but a beacon. Its peculiar orbit, aligned to pass near Earth, might have been intentional, not to scout, but to signal. If so, what message was it sending? Radio astronomers at SETI trained antennas toward the object, scanning for transmissions. None were confirmed. Public lie. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. A signal could have been encoded in ways beyond our detection. Or worse, perhaps a signal was detected, but buried under classification, deemed too disruptive for public release. Though civilian astronomers debated hypotheses in journals and conferences, governments were almost certain, lie paying closer attention. The Pentagon's Space Command already monitors near-Earth objects for defense. To assume they ignored an interstellar visitor passing within astronomical shouting distance would be naive. Classified sensors, more sensitive than anything public eye known, like lie tracked every shimmer and fluctuation of 3IATLAS. The most provocative speculation suggests that directed signals, laser pings, radar sweeps, encrypted hails were sent secret, lie toward the object. If so, we may never know the outcome. Did it respond? Did it alter course? Or did it simply drift on, cold and unflinching? A silent testament to technologies older than our species. The silence surrounding 3I Atlas B became its own enigma. Official reports dwindled quickly after its discovery. Media attention, initially bright, faded as larger headlines consumed public interest. Yet to some, this vanishing act was itself suspicious. Why did coverage dry up so quickly? Why were follow-up images scarce? Theories abounded that governments deliberately suppressed further analysis, that the object was too artificial to risk public panic, that its very purpose had already been determined, and that secrecy was safer than truth. The idea may sound paranoid, but history is filled with secrets, withheld in the name of stability. And if 3I Atlas were truly a probe of alien design, would our leaders ever dare admit it? The human brain is wired for patterns, and 3I Atlas gave it plenty to chew on. Some noted its arrival came exactly 3 years after Oumuamua. Others pointed out its trajectory is met-aligned with regions of the sky rich in exoplanets. A small but fervent group of the Orists proposed a killing sequence, that interstellar probes were arriving in waves, spaced deliberately, scouting star systems in a galactic survey. Oumuamua, the scout, BORISOV, the control sample. Sun I Atlas, the follow-up perhaps, focused on Earth. And what they asked would come next. For scientists, the challenge remained evidence. Extraordinary claims demand extraordinary proof. No matter how suspicious 3I Atlas seemed, no conclusive data labeled it alien. Without artifacts to examine, without transmissions to decode, suspicion remains only that suspicion. But sometimes, absence speaks louder than presence. The missing tail, the erratic brightness, the perfect orbit, each was a whisper in the dark. Individually, they could be dismissed. Together, they formed acris that felt almost intentional. As months passed, two camps emerged. The first insisted on natural explanation. Rare, yes, but not impossible. Science should not lead to aliens when simpler answers exist. The second camp, smaller but louder, declared that ignoring the science was willful blindness to them. 3IATLAS was a messenger from the stars. A probe whose very strangeness was the message. Caught between them was the public, uncertain whether to shrug or shiver. In the end, 3IATLAS drifted out of sight. Its mysteries unsolved, but it left behind a legacy. Every anomaly became magnified. Every unusual orbit eyed with suspicion. It sharpened debates in astronomy, emboldened conspiracy theorists, and reminded humanity of a simple, unsettling truth. Sometimes the universe refuses to be half like we expect. And sometimes, just sometimes, that defiance feels like design. Human history is filled with scouts before armies marched, before ships crossed oceans, before settlers founded colonies. Scouts were sent first. Their mission was simple: survey the land, measure the risks, and report back. The vanguard was never the main force. It was the eyes and ears of what might follow. If humanity has always moved this way, cautious, probing, deliberate, why would an extraterrestrial civilization act any differently? This then is the unsettling possibility that 3i Atlas is not a comet at all, but an Aquia probe sent not to conquer, but to watch, to measure, to test, to prepare. Consider the age of discovery, when European empires pushed beyond known horizons. They did not send thousands at first. They sent caravels and small ships, fragile wood end, craft carrying scouts like Columbus or Magellan. These expeditions mapped coastlines, charted currents, and evaluated resources. Only later came the galleons, the settlers, the armies. Or think of space exploration today. Before humans walk on Mars, we send rovers, orbiters, landers. They photograph, sample, and analyze. They are the vanguard of species, not yet ready to step across the void. By this pattern, it is not irrational to imagine 3i Atlas as a parallel, an interstellar rover of sorts, dispatched by a civilization far older, far more advanced. If 3i Atlas were such a vanguard, what would its goals be? Trajectory intelligence, its shallow approach. Near Earth may not have been random. By passing close, it could measure the density of our atmosphere, the strength of our magnetic field, the scatter of our radio signals. Resource mapping, ACE, would analyze solar spectral asteroid belts, icy moons, to a ship that travels between stars. Knowing what fuel and raw material can be harvested is essential. Biological sampling, even without landing. Instruments could detect biosignatures. Methane traces oxygen content. Chlorophyll reflectance. Earth screams with signals of life. To a passing probe, it would be obvious. Response measurement, perhaps most chilling. Observing us. Did we notice it? Did we panic? Did we reach out? Our very reaction could be the data it was sent to collect. Skeptics often argue, if aliens were here, wouldn't we see fleets, motherships, overwhelming displays of power? But that presumes conquest as the first step. In truth, vanguards are rarely aggressive. The first emissaries are observers. Warships come only if war is intended. Settle RS come only if colonization is planned. But scouts, they arrive quietly, watch silently, and slip away. Ours for results would be no burden at all. This would explain 3i Atlas' eerie behavior. Silent tale, less anomalous, and then gone. Some theorists propose that 3i Atlas was not alone. It was part of a reconnaissance campaign, stretching across years. 奥缪莫2017, the first probe, shaped like a needle, accelerated strangely, catching scientists off guard. A pathfinder. Comet Borisov, 2019, a control case seemingly natural, perhaps included to muddy the waters. Was it cover for the others? 3-1, ATLA, S2025, the latest arrival, with brightness anomalies and trajectory oddities. If true, this sequence mirrors human scouting campaigns, multiple expeditions, each with different goals, collectively building a picture of the terrain. And if scouts have already passed, does that not imply the possibility of what comes next? Speculation abounds on what technologies might make 3i Atlas possible. Self-repairing hulls to survive millennia in interstellar space. A probe might use nanotechnology to heal micrometeor impacts, maintaining integrity far beyond human lifespans. Solar sails, reflective sheets could allow propulsion without fuel, drifting eternally on starlight. Quantum communication, information gathered could be aimed home instant line, bypassing the speed of light through intense lead particles. Von Neumann architecture. Perhaps 3i Atlas can replicate itself, using asteroid material to spawn daughter probes, ensuring the mission never ends. If even one of these technologies were real, it would place the probe centuries, if not millennia ahead of us. Why would such a vanguard target our system at this exact moment? Some chilling possibilities arise. Technological milestone. Our radio leakage, nuclear detonations, and satellite swarms have made Earth visible for the first time. Perhaps civilizations only dispatch vanguards once a world crosses that threshold. Routine survey to a starfaring race. Every system is worth cataloging. Ours is simply the next on a long list. Resource potential. The solar system contains abundant water, metals and energy valuable, even to advanced civilizations. Strategic interest. Earth's location on agalactic. Spiral arm may make it a waypoint, a crossroads in interstellar navigation. History offers sobering analogies. When scouts, found fertile lands or resource-rich islands. Empires followed, indigenous peoples often dismissed those first contacts, unaware of what loomed behind. Centuries later, their world was transformed, sometimes uplifted, often destroyed. If 3i Atlas is a vanguard, the analogy is grim. Humanity might stand today as the uncontacted tribe, watching a strange vessel drift by, unaware of the fleet that may follow. Not everyone accepts the vanguard hypothesis. Critics argue the anomalies of 3i ATLAs can be explained by unusual comet composition. Its trajectory was governed by gravity, not intention. The lack of communication proves nothing but silence, and perhaps they are right. Perhaps it is nothing more than rock and ice. But history reminds us, dismissing scouts has consequences. The Trojan priests Laocoon's warned against accepting the would end horse at the gates. His warnings were ignored. The rest is legend. Even if 3i Atlas is never proven alien, the idea alone alters humanity's to imagine that we may have been observed, measured, judged. It changes how we see ourselves. Civilizations have always feared Red being watched, from the gods of Olympus to Orwell as Big Brother. The Watcher is a symbol of vulnerability. 3i ATLAS becomes the modern incarnation of that fear, and perhaps that fear is the point. A true vanguard does not only gather data, it also unsettles the target, sowing doubt and paranoia. If this was the vanguard, then humanity now waits. For what? Another probe, a signal, contact, colonization. No one knows. The silence is the most haunting part. Asylons, not of absence, but of patience. And patience, in an interstellar context, can stretch across centuries. The scout may have come and gone, but its masters may already be en route. For our civilization millions of years old, waiting 50 to... Some speculate that the vanguard's fairy disguise, as a comet is intentional, camouflage after all. What better cover than to appear as something routine, something boring, who looks twice at a comet? Only a few scientists, a few theorists, a few conspiracy watchers, enough to seed whispers, but not enough to spark global alarm, a perfect balance, hidden in plain sight. Whether 3i ATLAS is truly alien or not, the hypothesis refuses to die because it taps into something primal. Humanity has always feared Red Scouts not because they bring destruction, but because they imply more is coming. The shadows of the past whisper a lesson. Where there is a vanguard, there is always a main force. And so as 3i ATLAS slips into the darkness beyond our sight, we are left with an unsettling question. Was it merely a comet, or was it the first eye of a civilization that has now seen us? When 3i Atlas streaked into our solar system, the public heard little. A brief headline here, a scientific paper there, compared to the frenzy over Oumuamua in 2017. The silence was deafening. Why? Two conspiracy theorists. The answer is obvious. Governments and space agencies already knew far more than they admitted. 3i Atlas was not merely active. They argue it was a probe whose presence could not be allowed to reach the masses. NASA, ESA, and other agencies released only fragmentary data, brightness curves, orbital pods drawn, technical jargon, but questions piled up. Why were images scarce? Why were spectrographic results delayed? In past decades, the discovery of an interstellar visitor would have been front-page news. Instead, 3i ATLAS slipped quietly into a corner of academic journals. To some, this looked less like oversight and more like design. This would not be the first time. Governments downplayed cosmic anomalies. 1947 Roswell, first announced as a flying disc, the crash was immediately rebranded as a weather balloon. The classic template of denial was born. 1969, Apollo tapes. Conspiracy theorists claim segments of Apollo transmissions were cut, replaced by scripted audio. 2017, Oumuamua. Official statements insisted it was Eric. Despite anomalous acceleration, Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb saw the probe. Hypothesis was dismissed as fringe. The lesson, whenever something threatens to disturb the narrative of a predictable, empty universe, authorities act swiftly to normalize it. Why would 3i Atlas be any different? Perhaps the most suspicious element of 3i Atlas is the data that does exist. No close-up imagery. Despite telescopes capable of extraordinary resolution, we have no detailed surface images. Why? Conflicting reports. Early measurements suggested a faint tail. Then later reports claimed none, which was true. Trajectory anomalies. Small deviations were noted, then quietly retracted. Did the probe adjust its path deliberately? In conspiracy logic, absence is never absence. It is erasure. Some theorists claim that the US Space Force, newly established in 2019, quietly tracked 3i Atlas, long before its public discovery. If the object was artificial, even partial, it would be of immense strategic interest. Imagine the implications. reverse engineering alien material, monitoring for signals, establishing first contact in secret without public panic. Could it be that 3i Atlas was not merely observed, but intercepted? In obscure online forums, whispers persist of a ping received during 3i Atlas' slow street approach, amateur radio. Astronomers claim to detect narrowband transmissions signals that did not match known natural sources. Official agencies never confirmed this, but silence to conspiracy theorists is not denial. It is confirmation, disguised as indifference. If a probe sent a message home, governments would have every reason to suppress it. Humanity is not united. An alien signal could trigger chaos, rivalries, even wars. Better than to keep it hidden. Some sociologists argue that secrecy is not purely malicious. It is strategic. Religious upheaval as doctrines are challenged. Economic panic as markets react to the unknown. Geopolitical instability as nations compete for alien contact. Governments may prefer to manage. Humanity's awakening to drip. Feed the truth over decades, softening the shock. 3i, ATL, AS might be part of that process. Acknowledged, but stripped of significance. Theorists split into factions over what the cover-up means. The Guardian theory, governments are hiding the truth to protect us. Believing humanity is not ready. The elite control theory, the powerful already know of alien contact and are hoarding the knowledge for advantage. The shadow treaty theory, the most extreme claim that governments have already made deals with extraterrestrials, exchanging secrecy for technology. Two believers. 3. iAtlas is not just O-probe, it is a symbol of these hidden bargains. Cinema and literature offer mirror hidden truths. Contact, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Arrival all depict governments grappling with alien revelation in secret. Before telling the public, conspiracists argue these stories serve as self-disclosure, preparing us subconsciously. In this view, science fiction is not imagination, but acclimatization. Perhaps 3IATLAS was written into fiction long before it appeared. Anonymous testimonies circulate. An observatory employee claims data. Sets were classified overnight. A retired Air Force officer hints that foreign technology surveillance was reactivated during 3IATLAS's pass. A graduate student insists her professor's findings on its albedo were locked away before publication. Are these genuine leaks, or the fantasies of those hungry for relevance? In conspiracy culture, the difference hardly matters. Every whisper fuels the fire. Skeptics dismiss conspiracies as paranoia, yet one fact troubles even the rationale. Why do these anomalies cluster around interstellar objects? Amu anomalous acceleration. 3.1 ATL AS anomalous silence. 2 chances in less than a decade. After millennia of nothing. For conspiracy theorists, coincidence is simply another word for cover-up. Some believe the cover-up is deeper than politics. They argue that civilizations across the galaxy follow our code. New species are contacted only after they demonstrate stability. Governments then may be enforcers of this code, aware of visitors, but sworn to secrecy. To break, it would invite consequences. If true, 3.1 ATLAS was not hidden from us by our authorities, but by theirs. Even if every conspiracy were false, their existence serves a purpose. They reveal society's steepest anxieties, that we are not in control, that truths larger than nations are hidden. The contact has already happened, and we are the last to know. In this sense, 3. iAtlas is more than rock or ice. It is a mirror reflecting our mistrust of authority, our suspicion of the unseen, our dread of being pawns in a larger game. Perhaps 3 iAtlas was a comet, nothing more. Perhaps every anomaly has a natural explanation. Perhaps governments told US everything they knew, but conspiracy theorists insist otherwise. To them, the silence is too loud, the data too thin, the timing too suspicious. They whispered that 3IATLAs came as that it sent a message, that governments heard it, and decided we should not, and so the object slips away. Nameless to most unforgettable to a few. The truth may be out there, but if it is buried under layers of secrecy, hidden in vaults and silos, locked in files marked classified. And the greatest conspiracy of all may not be that 3i Atlas was alien, but that we will never be allowed to know. When whispers spread that 3i Atlas might not be a comet at all, but the artifact of an alien intelligence, the reactions were as varied as humanity itself. Science can chart orbits and spectra, but culture decides meaning, and meaning, as history shows, can ignite revolutions or wars. For some Christian communities, the idea of alien visitors was troubling but not destabilizing. They interpreted 3i Atlas as another piece of God's vast creation. To others, however, it raised unsettling questions. Did Christ die for extraterrestrials as well, if aliens exist? Are humans truly the center of creation? Church is split between cosmic inclusivists and earthly exclusivists, echoing ancient debates about geocentrism. Some Muslim scholars pointed to verses in the Quran and hinting at countless worlds. For them, alien life was not only plausible, but already acknowledged by scripture. 3IATLAS, they suggested, might be part of Allah's grand design in South and East Asia, where cosmologies already accept vast cycles of universes and beings. The discovery caused less friction. Some Hindus claimed alien civilizations fit neatly into the concept of innumerable realms. Buddhists framed it as a reminder of impermanence, that even intelligent life across galaxies must face the cycles of suffering and rebirth. The philosophers were divided between optimists and existentialists. Optimists saw 3IATLAS as proof that we are not alone, that intelligence is not a fluke. Humanity, they argued, now has a cosmic kinship. Existentialists, however, saw a darker mirror. If aliens send probes, they are ahead of us. If they are ahead of us, then civilizations survive longer than we. Thought, but why send a probe in silence? Perhaps because they are cautious or predatory. Philosophy classrooms buzzed with the zoo hypothesis. Maybe we are observed like animals behind glass. 3IATLAS was then a reminder not of connection, but of captivity. In the West, Hollywood seized on the narrative. Movies about 3IATLAs flooded streaming services. Some were optimistic first contact tales. Others were dystopian invasions. Pop culture turned the mysterious visitor into both hope and nightmare. In Asia, Chinese and Japanese thinkers linked the probe to ancient myths of heavenly visitors. In popular media, 3I Atlas was framed as both a challenge to human pride and an invitation to advanced technological. In Africa and indigenous traditions, many communities claimed resonance with their own stories of sky spirits and star ancestors. For them, 3IATLAS was not alien, but familiar and old presence returning. Perhaps the greatest impact was not in doctrine, but in the quiet shift of perspective, the realization that someone out there had reached us before we reached them, collapsed the illusion of centrality. For millennia, humans placed themselves at the axis of creation. Copernicus dethroned Earth. Darwin dethroned humanity now. 3I Atlas threatened to dethrone civilization itself, and at the thronement lay both despair and liberation. Despair that we are small, liberation that we are not alone. Reactions did not unify humanity, they fractured it. Believers saw 3IATLAS as the dawn of cosmic brotherhood. Doomsayers interpreted it as a harbinger of apocalypse, a scout for conquest. Deniers rejected all claims, clinging to the comfort of solitude. The irony in seeking aliens, we discovered ourselves a fearful imaginative. If 3I Atlas was merely a rock, science could explain it. But if it was more, if it was truly a messenger, then its greatest impact may not be technological, but cultural. It forced us to ask ancient questions with new urgency. Who are we? Why are we here? Are we prepared to share the cosmos? Not just the Earth, whether comet or probe, natural or artificial. 3IATLAS reminded humanity of a truth philosophers have always whispered. The universe is not obliged to comfort us. It only reveals. In the end, 3IATLAS slipped back into the dark, its path curving outward, away from the warm TH of the sun, and back into the infinite night. Astronomers tracked it as long as they could, their telescopes straining for photons, until the object became just another faint speck against the starfield. Then one day, it was gone beyond the reach of even our most sensitive instruments. Yet its absence left behind a presence more powerful than its passage. For some, the silence was reassuring. If 3I Atlas was alien, then at least it had not announced itself, had not unleashed destruction. For others, the silence was more terrifying than any invasion. It suggested intent, calculation. A civilization advanced enough to cross the gulf of stars would not act careless, lie silence. Then with strategy. And so humanity was left with a paradox. If it was natural, then the universe is stranger than we thought. If it was artificial, then the universe is more inhabited than we feared. Either way, our place in the cosmos had changed forever. Some thinkers proposed that 3I Atlas was less operable than a mirror. Not a mirror of glass, but of meaning. We looked at it and saw our own fears, our own hopes, our own fractures. Believers saw God Shand. Scientists saw physics. Governments saw weapons. Conspiracy theorists saw warnings. In truth, perhaps it was only a fragment of ice and dust, but what it revealed was us, like the ancient parables. Its lesson was indirect. The universe had given us Aradel, and in solving it, we exposed our own reflections. What if 3I Atlas was only the first? A scout, a messenger, a test balloon. If civilizations send probes, They rare lies send just one, somewhere out there. More may be on their way, timed on scales of centuries, not years. Will we be ready when the next visitor arrives? Will we greet it as explorers, or as frightened children? The answer may decide not only our survival, but our worthiness to join whatever galactic community might exist. Perhaps the real decision lies, not with alien civilizations, but with us. 3. IATLAS has forced us to confront uncomfortable truths. Our unity is fragile. Our knowledge is incomplete. Our destiny is unwritten. We can choose to treat this moment as fear or warning to turn inward, or we can treat it as inspiration to reach outward, to build, to explore, to prepare. History shows that the greatest leaps of humanity came not when we felt safe, but when we felt small. The ocean was crossed not because it was comfortable, but because it was terrified. The same will be true of the stars. Imagine for a moment that 3i Atlas really was a messenger, not of conquest, not of peace, but of patience. A whisper across millions of years. You are not alone. Grow strong. Someday, we will meet. That is both a comfort and a challenge. A comfort that we are not cosmic orphans. A challenge that we must become worthy descendants creatures who can rise above tribalism, war and fear to take our place in a larger story, whether comet or craft omen or accident. 3. Atlas has already succeeded in its mission. It made us wonder. It made us argue. It made us dream. And in the act of wondering, arguing, and dreaming, we have taken the first step toward becoming the kind of civilization that might one day launch our own silent messengers into the dark, curious, fragments of species, desperate not to be forgotten. The truth of 3i Atlas may remain forever out of reach, but perhaps that is the point. The universe does not hand us answers. It hands us questions. And in chasing those questions, we become more than we were. If UVA stay with this story until now, it means you. To feel the pull of the unknown. You know that the night sky is not just decoration, it is an ocean. And every ocean demands sailors. Here at Nebula Vale, I promise to keep uncovering the mysteries the universe throws at us, whether comet, probe or something stranger still. If you want to walk further into the veil of the cosmos with me, subscribe, share, and keep watching, because the story of 3i Atlas is not finished. It has only just begun.